Hey there and welcome to BingeBot. We recap all the latest and greatest TV to help keep you in the loop. Today we're checking out Silo Season 2. This gritty dystopian drama follows a group of survivors who live in a massive underground silo sheltered from the supposedly toxic planet above. Now, as protagonist Juliet Nichols is sent to the surface, she must brave the many unknowns ahead, risking her life every step of the way. Let's jump right into the recap, starting with Episode 1, The Engineer. Showing incredible bravery, a young boy runs through the deepest levels of Silo 17, lightened only by the torch that he's carrying. He was entrusted by the engineering team to deliver a message to his father, the sheriff, and the leader of the rebels, that the power generator will flood in 15 minutes. Understanding this, the sheriff orders the rebels to start their attack, prompting them to throw an overwhelming assault on the higher levels of the silo. Then, celebrating their victory, the rebels march up towards the outside world, believing that they finally seized their long-awaited freedom. But, of course, they end up confronted with the tragic reality that the outside world's atmosphere is lethally toxic, leaving their bodies to decay over the next 3 decades or so. Now, in the present, after being expelled by the rulers of Silo 18, Juliet Nichols begins to explore the apocalyptic desert before her, shielded by a protective environmental suit. Counting corpses by the hundreds, Juliet cannot believe what her eyes are seeing beyond the hill that surrounds her former silo. There are the remains of the rebels who fought their way out of the neighboring Silo 17. And walking over the bodies, she finds her way into the silo, but soon she starts to have trouble breathing due to the oxygen in her suit depleting, forcing her to break her helmet. While she's glad that the inside air is breathable, she quickly realizes that she's now trapped inside the seemingly abandoned silo, and shrouded by darkness, a lit room catches her attention. Unfortunately, it's unreachable behind a broken bridge, and the fall would surely be high enough to kill her. Thankfully, she finds a strong rope, and after attempting a risky stunt, she almost makes it to the other side, but at the last second, the rope mysteriously gets cut, and she falls hard. With luck on her side, though, the deep waters at the bottom of the silo cushion her fall, and despite almost drowning and receiving a nasty wound on her arm, she ultimately manages to get back up to check on the rope, only to find that there's a clean cut on it, almost as if someone had tried to intentionally kill her. Unwilling to give up, she uses her engineering skills to fashion a makeshift bridge, which lasts just long enough to get her to the other side. And following the warm lights, she finds something that leaves her speechless. Locked inside a vault in the server room is a soft-spoken man peering through a small window of reinforced glass. At first, the man seems kind enough towards Juliet. Only a moment later, though, he informs her in a matter-of-fact tone that if she tries to open up the vault door, he's going to kill her.
Thing is, you do that again, and I'm gonna kill you.
Episode 2, Order. Inside Silo 18, Bernard Holland, the head of IT, the mayor, and the man responsible for sending Juliet out, watches her findings through a hidden camera that was attached to her helmet, letting him know that Juliet survived and has sought refuge in Silo 17. Knowing that the people of the silo will riot and demand going outside just like Juliet, Bernard decides to speak with them as their mayor to calm them down. With the entire silo looking up to him, Bernard gives a speech like a true politician, deceptively painting Juliet as a hero and claiming that the silo scientists developed a new tape that improved the isolation capabilities of their environmental suits, and that Juliet willingly chose to be the first person to try it out. Of course, this is nothing more than a handful of lies, as it was Juliet's friends, Martha Walker, the head of recycling, and Carla McLean, the head of supply, who were truly responsible for secretly switching the tape in her suit, which allowed Juliet to survive just long enough to reach the neighboring silo. Episode 3, Solo. Despite his initial hostility, the man inside the vault in Silo 17 becomes curious about Juliet and even begins building a connection with her, telling her that his nickname is Solo and that he was once the apprentice, or the shadow, of the head of IT of Silo 17, Russell Conroy. Solo then begins to tell Juliet the story of how his silo collapsed. It all started with a man who decided to go outside, but after doing so, he didn't clean the camera showing the outside world, and because nobody got to see that man die, people began to doubt the toxicity of the outside world's atmosphere, which ignited the rebellion, and the rest is history. Taking this as a cautionary tale, Juliet realizes the same terrible fate might be waiting for her own people, as she neither cleaned nor died, and that might encourage them to riot and demand going outside as well, which is precisely what's happening inside Silo 18 right now. Understanding that Juliet needs to get back to her silo, Solo informs her that she can craft a makeshift environmental suit out of firefighter gear. Unfortunately for her, though, the fire department is located in one of the flooded levels deeper inside the silo. After coming up with a plan to build a breathing apparatus, Juliet asks Solo to help pump air for her while she's underwater, but he refuses, stating that he must protect the vault above all else. And desperate, Juliet pleads for Solo's help, telling him that the lives of 10,000 people depend on her returning to her silo. But still refusing to come out, Solo panics when Juliet decides to give up on him and leaves to swim down on her own. Fearing that she's gonna get herself killed, Solo finally musters the courage to leave the vault and agrees to help. Episode 4: The Harmonium. With Solo's help, Juliet designs the breathing apparatus and has him operate the air pump, allowing her to dive deep underwater and arrive at the fire station, where luckily she finds a firefighter suit in great condition. Back at the silo, wanting to control the riots, Bernard arranges a meeting with Knox and Shirley, the leaders of the rebellion movement and also Juliet's close friends from the mechanical department at the bottom of the silo. The meeting is to take place in the office of Judge Mary Meadows, the official head of the judicial department, but merely a puppet under Bernard's command. While he awaits their arrival, Bernard invites Meadows herself to his apartment, and they share a pleasant dinner together. At first, the dinner goes smoothly, but Meadows soon begins to struggle to breathe. Seeing the pained look on Bernard's face, she realizes that he has poisoned her.
Why?
I must follow the order.
Have a way that my death will serve that.
It will unite the silo.
The reason behind that is that Robert Sims, Bernard's right-hand man, is bitter that Bernard refused to officially make him his shadow, which caused Sims to secretly start an impeachment campaign against Meadows in an attempt to strain her relationship with Bernard. And to counter this, Bernard has seemingly come up with a devious plan that requires murdering Meadows, which is why she's now dying in his arms. Not too long after, Knox and Shirley arrive, and seemingly well-intentioned, Bernard greets them alongside a massive crowd before leading them into Meadows' office. Inside, the two are shocked to see Meadows dead, with a knife sticking out of her chest. Realizing that Bernard's trying to set them up, Knox and Shirley run out and quickly start making their way back down. Under instructions from Bernard, Sims follows them and puts on a performance for the upper-level citizens, blaming Knox and Shirley for Meadows' murder, and whips them all into a frenzy, uniting them against the lower levels. Episode 5: Descent. Before her death, Meadows left Bernard with something to think about, telling him that the illegal hard drive Juliet had actually might have contained information important to him, but that's too bad since Bernard already destroyed it. Because of this, Bernard summons Lucas Kyle, one of Juliet's accomplices who'd been banished to work in the mines for his crimes. And recognizing Lucas's technical talents, Bernard orders him to restore the hard drive, knowing he'll comply as he has no desire to continue working and likely dying in the mines. Impressed with Juliet's courage and mechanical expertise, Solo asks her to put her skills to use one more time and fix the groundwater pump to prevent Silo 17 from completely flooding over. Distraught over the situation in her silo, Juliet refuses, stating that she can't waste any more time. Knowing that if Juliet leaves, she might never come back, Solo insists that she must fix the pump first. But in turn, Juliet confronts Solo, revealing that while she was searching through the silo, she discovered a picture of a young Solo. The problem is that the boy in the picture looks nothing like the man before her, even accounting for all the years that have passed.
Look at this, I found this. Cole Myers, the IT shadow. That's the actual—
I am the IT shadow! You don't know what you're talking about!
Given this, she concludes that he's been lying to her about his identity the entire time. But faced with the accusation, he blows up at Juliet, furiously insisting that no, he is the real Solo. And seeing how volatile the man really is, Juliet runs away, but ends up fainting due to a bad infection that started festering on her wounded arm. Episode 6: Barricades. In his office, Bernard's impressed as Lucas is doing an excellent job of recovering the data from the hard drive, especially as he's discovered an encrypted letter from Salvador Quinn to his wife. Given that Salvador was the head of IT during the failed rebellion 140 years ago, Bernard decides on the spot to appoint Lucas as his shadow, granting him the authority to access a highly classified set of resources, which will supposedly help Lucas decode the letter. Thanks to the so-called Solo taking care of her and giving her antibiotics, Juliet recovers from her wound and upon waking up, again tells him that she must return to Silo 18 as soon as possible. In response, he reveals that he's hidden the suit, and the only way Juliet can get back is if she dives into the water once again to fix the water pump. Episode 7: The Dive. Taking Lucas inside the vault in the IT department, which is similar to the vault in Silo 17, Bernard shows him into a room full of items or relics from before the world became uninhabitable, including an advanced tablet that communicates with Lucas entirely by voice. Despite the shock that such technology exists, Lucas wastes no time, and he starts talking with the tablet in an attempt to crack Salvador's code. Elsewhere, realizing that the rebellion cannot succeed without support from the upper levels, Martha and the mechanical team design a small rocket that shoots to the top of the silo, opens up a small chamber, and scatters paper slips everywhere. These slips urge all citizens to rise up against their rulers and demand answers about what really happened to Juliet and who truly killed Judge Meadows. When Bernard reads one of the slips, he grows alarmed, understanding that many of the citizens of the upper levels are now going to join into the rebellion as well. Given that he still refuses to reveal his true identity, Juliet's forced to call the mysterious man she's stuck with by the name of Solo. However, she makes it clear that she knows he's lying to her. Forced to fix the water pump, she once again dives into the water while Solo operates the air pump. Carrying a waterproof power line, Juliet reaches the pump room, and upon connecting power to the pump, she succeeds in turning it on. And ready to go back up, she shakes the rope to signal Solo to pull her out, only to realize in horror that the rope has been cut and her air pump has been turned off. Desperate and running out of oxygen, she quickly swims up and thankfully breaches the surface in the nick of time. Calling out for Solo, she runs up the stairs to where she last left him, only to find an axe lying on the ground and bloodstains leading up the stairs. Episode 8: The Book of Quinn. After a thorough investigation through the relics in Silo 18, Lucas figures out that to crack the code, he needs a very specific version of the Pact, or the Silo's constitution, that belonged to Salvador Quinn. Wanting all the help that he can get, Lucas pays a visit to the family named the Penbrooks, who are descendants of Salvador, asking if they perhaps inherited Salvador's Pact. In response, the Penbrooks explain that while they did used to be in possession of Salvador's Pact, they had given it to Judge Meadows years ago, as she was also interested in it and willing to trade.
What were the books you traded for these?
Just one. An old copy of the Pact.
It was Quinn's. Lisa's name was on the inside.
With this knowledge, Lucas heads to Meadows' place, and he manages to find the Pact. Reading through it, he's finally able to crack the code, as he discovers that certain pages contain underlined letters which spell out a secret message, with one of the lines reading, "This game is rigged," conveying that Salvador knew that all the things in the silo weren't as they seemed, and wanted whoever cracked his code to know that too. Back at Silo 17, wanting to find out what happened to Solo, Juliet picks up the axe and starts walking up the stairs. During her search, she comes across what appears to be a body thrown on the floor, and quietly approaching it, she's caught off guard when the person leaps up and attacks her, and after a desperate struggle, Juliet's able to overpower them, knocking their helmet off. To her surprise, the attacker turns out to be a young girl named Hope. Simultaneously, two teenagers, Audrey and Rick, come down the stairs, with Audrey holding a bow, warning Juliet not to make any sudden moves. Episode 9: The Safeguard. While it was assumed that Solo was the only survivor in Silo 17, it turns out that a group of 5 kids of different ages have also been living there, and have been monitoring and sabotaging Juliet, which finally explains who cut the rope and caused her to almost drown when she first arrived at Silo 17. But then, when the children saw Juliet bring Solo out of the vault, they decided to kidnap him, hoping to force him to reveal the vault's passcode, as they've nearly run out of food. And now that they've ambushed Juliet, they attempt to scare her away, but she manages to negotiate with them and eventually convinces them to let her see Solo, asserting that she can get him to open the vault for them. Seeing Solo completely powerless and beaten up in his cell, Juliet approaches him with empathy. Speaking in a gentle tone, she explains that the only way that she can help him is if he comes completely clean and explains who he really is and why he's been lying to her. Recognizing that Juliet's genuinely trying to help, Solo begins to trust her and shares the most traumatic memory of his childhood of when he was 12 years old during the rebellion in Silo 17. At long last, he admits that he's not the real Solo and that his real name is Jimmy Conroy, the son of Russell Conroy, the head of IT. While Solo was actually the nickname of a person named Cole Myers, who was Russell's shadow and ended up dying during the rebellion. In order to keep Jimmy safe, Russell ordered him into the vault and told him to never open it for anyone. And because Jimmy obeyed, he was forced to watch through the glass window as the sheriff, the leader of the rebellion, held his father at gunpoint and executed him. Haunted by that moment, Jimmy grew up blaming himself, convinced that if he'd only opened the door, his father might have survived. Seeing himself as a coward, he chose to live under the identity of Solo, imagining that Russell's shadow would have been braver and a more worthy son. Now that Juliet understands his painful backstory, she consoles Jimmy, reminding him that he did the right thing, as his father ordered him to keep the vault locked because he loved Jimmy and wanted him to be safe. After taking some time to reassure him, Juliet notices that Jimmy begins to accept her words and finally makes peace with his past. Realizing this, she tells him the right thing to do now is to open the vault to the children who are trapped in the silo with him, especially because Audrey and Rick have a baby who might starve to death. And hearing about the baby, Jimmy finally shakes his traumatic need to protect the vault and agrees to let them all in, starting a new chapter in his life where he's no longer paranoid and violent, but actually welcoming and happy to share all of the delicious food and impressive tools with the children. Having cracked the letter, Lucas begins traveling to the very bottom of the silo, guided by the final part of Salvador's instructions, which describe a secret tunnel and hint that what he finds there will confirm an incredible, almost unbelievable secret. Using his persuasiveness and influence as Bernard's shadow, Lucas manages to make his way past the guards and the rioters and reaches the lowest level of the silo, the cavern where Juliet and her late boyfriend, George Wilkins, used to spend time together. Knowing exactly what he must do, Lucas uses a rope to descend into the water-filled dig site housing an enormous excavator, the very machine that presumably carved out the silo. And at the base, he discovers a tunnel just like Salvador's letter described. Walking into the mysterious tunnel, he finds a massive door of sorts, and cautiously approaching it, Lucas is taken aback when a light suddenly shines on his face and an AI voice calls him by his name and asks why he's there. And almost in disbelief, Lucas answers that he was sent here by Salvador's letter. In response, the AI voice, known as the algorithm, tells him that only Salvador Quinn, Mary Meadows, and George Wilkins have ever reached this door. Ominously, the algorithm then gives Lucas a clear warning. If he speaks to anyone about this conversation or what he saw down here, the safeguard will be initiated.
If you speak to anyone about this conversation or what you have seen down here, we will have no choice but to initiate the safeguard.
It then asks Lucas if he knows what the safeguard even is, and Lucas solemnly replies that he does. Episode 10, Into the Fire. At a meeting in Martha's workshop, Knox announces that it's time to escalate the rebellion, something they can do by rigging the power generator with explosives, which would put the fate of the silo in their hands and force Bernard to negotiate. Unfortunately, Bernard's secretly listening in through a surveillance camera, which leads him to order all of the raiders, the silo's law enforcement, down into the generator room immediately. During the raid, several people in the lower levels are arrested, including the leaders of the rebellion, and are brought to the higher levels. In an unexpected twist, though, it turns out that the rebels already knew Bernard was spying on them through the surveillance camera. This is why they were able to secretly devise a completely different plan using sign language, a skill that everyone in Mechanical knows, since the overbearing noise of the generator forces them to communicate without words. Fortunately, Bernard completely falls for the rebels' deception, as the first part of their real plan was to lure all of the raiders down to the lower levels by planting decoy bombs at the generator, while the real bomb was placed on the stairs at level 90 of the silo. The plan is almost perfect. The only tragic part, however, is that in order to detonate the bomb, Dr. Pete Nichols, Juliet's father, ends up needing to sacrifice himself, but not before telling a fellow rebel, Hank, to let Juliet know just how much he loves her and how proud of her that he is, if she ever returns, that is. With these final words, Pete heroically triggers the explosion, which rips through 2 whole flights of stairs between levels 92 and 90. And as a result, all of the raiders who'd been sent to the lower levels are now trapped there, allowing the rebels to seize control of the upper levels of the silo. In Silo 17, as Juliet readies her equipment to finally make the journey back to her silo, Jimmy decides to visit his childhood home, where he finds a piece of paper with the phrase "safeguard procedure" written on it. Suddenly, a terrified look crosses Jimmy's face, and he explains to Juliet that he recalls hearing his parents talk about the safeguard, which refers to a pipe filled with poison that would trigger and kill everyone in a silo in case of an emergency. Thankfully, though, Jimmy then reveals that his parents had actually discovered a way to cap the pipe, preventing it from activating. Overwhelmed by the explosion that ravaged his silo, Bernard watches the chaos unfold, when suddenly Lucas appears in front of him, having made his way back up before the stairs got destroyed. Speaking very quietly so the algorithm won't hear, Lucas seemingly reveals to Bernard what he discovered at the bottom of the silo, and then informs him that he's quitting as his shadow.
That's why Meadows quit as your shadow. That's why I quit.
Feeling utterly defeated by Lucas's revelation, Bernard despondently walks up to Robert Sims and simply hands him the key to the vault, finally granting Sims his lifelong wish of becoming head of IT. Knowing full well the dire state that the silo is in, Sims enters the vault, accompanied by his son Anthony and his wife Camille, who despite being a former raider, had been secretly helping the rebels whenever she could. Now that he's in the vault for the first time, Sims hears the algorithm speak to him, asking why he's there, and in a confident tone, Sim states that he wants to save the silo, and the algorithm replies that it shares the same desire. But in an unforeseen turn of events, the algorithm then instructs Sims to take his son and leave the vault, while asking only for Camille to stay behind.
Judge Sims, you and your son must leave the vault. Camille can stay.
As the rebels shout and demand to be let out of the silo, they suddenly fall silent when they spot a figure appearing over the hill in the outside display. A moment later, they erupt in celebration as they realize that it's Juliet, wearing her new suit fashioned from the firefighter's gear. Rushing over to the camera, Juliet wipes it clean and raises a piece of cloth with a warning written on it, urging them to stay inside as the outside atmosphere is not safe. Afterward, as she struggles to pry the exit hatch open with a crowbar, Bernard opens it up from the inside. And wearing his own environmental suit and carrying a gun, Bernard meets Juliet and tells her to clear the way, as he wants to enjoy the freedom of the outside world for just a moment before ending his own life, since the silo has completely descended into chaos and the algorithm is likely about to activate the safeguard.
Why are you here, Bernard?
I just want to go outside. Feel free for one moment of my life.
In response, Juliet reveals that she knows a way to disable the safeguard, when suddenly the door to the silo automatically begins to close, and Juliet instinctively jumps back inside with Bernard. What's truly horrifying, though, is that multiple flamethrowers designed to decontaminate outside toxicity activate, and as the fire engulfs the room, the two drop down to the floor, but given the sheer intensity of the flame, their fate remains uncertain. While the present-day events in Silo 18 are extremely intense, an abrupt flashback shifts to a calmer, more normal world, possibly over 3 centuries earlier. On a rainy night in Washington, D.C., a U.S. congressman named Daniel heads to a bar for what he assumes is a date with a woman named Helen. However, things already seem off even back then, as patrons are required to be scanned with a radiation detector before even entering the bar. After passing the scan, Daniel meets with Helen, but he's disappointed when he finds out that she's actually a reporter who's not there for a date, but to question him about a dirty bomb that was allegedly dropped on U.S. soil by Iran. And not wishing to reveal top-secret information, a frustrated Daniel excuses himself and leaves. Before going, he gives Helen the small gift that he brought her, a duck-shaped Pez dispenser, the very same one that will eventually end up in Juliet's possession generations in the future. And that's where we leave off with Silo Season 2. Juliet had a nice little field trip to the surface, but it seems like she's right back where she started, and the situation has only gotten worse. I'm eager to see what Season 3 holds, but how about you guys? Did you like this season? Also, how about the book? I've been interested in reading it, but I haven't really found the time. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, as we always love hearing from you. And that about wraps it up. If you liked the video, consider sharing with a friend or just dropping us a like, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss a new video. If you'd like to support us further, you can do so via YouTube memberships, Patreon, or Buy Me a Coffee, and unlock some cool bonuses along the way. We'll be back soon with another recap or video on your favorite entertainment, but for now, BingeBot is logging off.